So, you have written your script and you now need to consider how best to communicate your ideas to an audience. Where do you start the planning? In this video, we will look at 4 of the 8 areas you might like to consider when planning your shoot. These areas include geography, the movement of characters in a scene, the point of view from which we observe the action, and the character's eyeline as a driver for focus and tension. The first question for a director is about geography and deals with the location of your story and the impact of environment on the action and character psychology. What must the audience see or be shown to establish the environment of the scene? The school in this sequence is not a driving part of the narrative. However, the storyteller needs just enough for the audience to understand this boy in his context. The audience orientation is done using a kind of stereotyped shorthand, and we are quickly able to see John doesn't fit in at school. The geography offers a variety of opportunities to view the world differently, but despite the size of the location, the director has selected to keep the shots tight to mimic the closed world of the student. Geography also refers to the kind of light you need to capture your shot and how this will affect the mood of a scene. This scene uses cool, flat lighting to support the mood of the story at this point. The boy's world is not a happy one. The lighting and the mood supports the narrative and reinforces the perspective of the boy. How will your location accommodate the geography of your story? The second question is on movement by characters through the location. This really allows you to think about what has to happen and what must we see or not see of the action to understand the story. When and where do the characters move as part of the action? We saw in the last sequence that all students in John's world walk away from him. How each character leaves is important to establishing their relationship with John. In the next sequence, the movement is different. Instead of moving away, the character of Inet reaches out to him. The main movement in this sequence is the like symbol handshake. It is the turning point of this scene. The movement has been constructed to mirror Michelangelo's creation of man painting. The boy's perception is that he has created his own world, but the reference to the creation painting allows the audience to see the movement differently. John is not in the creator's position, but is instead in the position of Adam. The audience is being set up through this famous reference to expect a fall from grace or a loss of innocence. This sequence starts with John falling. This movement links directly to the story premise, and who creates whom is significant to the story's meaning. How will you show movement, and from whose point of view will we see that movement? Now let's consider the question of point of view, because this connects to where we place the camera and how we position the audience. Let's look again at the boy's encounter with the character Inet. We are aware of John's diminished power by our view from his position. He looks up at the character Inet. We then see the John from Inet's position as he looks down on him. However, at the end, John is lifted up as the final part of the sequence. The wide shot and the cutaway from the omniscient point of view allow the audience to connect to the symbol of the creation, and the low camera angle as they leave builds a false hope in a new relationship. At each significant moment, we have to consider whose point of view are we sharing, whose point of view should dominate the overall story, and when and why should point of view change. Whose emotions, thoughts, or preoccupations are we as an audience experiencing? Point of view links to the lines of tension, each as eyeline. This question establishes what the audience can't see but wants to, or helps to drive how shots should follow one after another if the coverage is to work. To consider this, we will look at the climax sequence from Inet for a heightened sense of eyeline and action. What do you see are the significant eyelines in this scene? How has the director forced the audience to look for the next shot? What does the audience want to see next? Where does the eyeline change? How does eyeline create tension? In summary, there are 8 question areas that you should be considering when planning, staging, or coverage. In this video, we have looked at the first 4 questions. In the next video, we will look at camera movement, compositional relationships, space and isolation. So what's next? Use the questions sheet that you've downloaded from CGS Connect and begin your discussion board in response to the prompts from the video. Open your finished film script and work through the first 4 questions to help you focus your thinking in each scene.